Hey everyone, my name is Melody. Welcome to my channel where we talk about responsible consumerism by the way of project pans, no buys, and tips on how you can be the most ethical consumer you can be. And today I'm introducing a new series, which is where I take 3 of my eyeshadow palettes and wear only those 3 for 2 weeks. And the idea behind it is to get me to use all of my collection and also to really determine to kind of get in there with each palette and determine if it's something I want to keep in my collection. Is it something that maybe it's time to part with? And also it gives me the chance to see really how much use I'm getting out of it, how much am I paying per use based on my cost per use spreadsheet. I don't even know if that video has gone out yet. It was kind of a disaster video. If you're in for a good laugh at somebody in a mean way, you can go ahead and watch that video because I know I laughed at myself. It wasn't really in a mean way, but you know what I mean. Okay, so we are going to look at the palettes I used for the last 2 weeks. I also decided to put in 3 blushes with those and stick with those 3 blushes, and I'm going to introduce what I'm using for the next 2 weeks as well. I'm not positive if I'm going to keep the blushes as part of it or not. So far it's going okay. We'll just see. And then when I get through all of my palettes doing this process, that'll be sometime in late spring. Then I'm going to figure out another project to do. I have a couple other projects in mind, and once I go through those, then I will probably start panning a palette, and I already know which one I want to do. So anyway, these last 2 weeks I used these 3 palettes. So I have the Charlotte Tilbury Rebel palette, and it's just kind of a green based, like khaki green. It's a gold shade in there, and it was my first time using it during this 2-week period. And the first time I used it, I was not excited about it. I didn't like the look that I achieved at all, and I wasn't going to use it again. I was just going to put it on Poshmark saying only used once and see what I could get for it. But then I thought, you know what, I need to give it one more try. Partially because I want to put a picture up of each of the palettes in use for this video. So that's really what made me try it again. And I'm so glad I did, because the second time around I ended up loving it. I just felt like that gold shade, and I used it in a different way. So the first time I used it, I went through the quad like it's intended, like this is all over, and then enhance, what does that say? Oh, pop and smoke. So that's how I used it, and I didn't like it. But I ended up with this gold shade on my lid, and the whole idea behind the Rebel palette is to make hazel eyes look gold, and it really did. When I put this palette on my eyes, it really made my eyes look gold. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it in the picture, because I felt like the picture was like half as gold as it actually was when I looked in the mirror. But I still really did enjoy that look. So I'm so glad I gave it a second try, and I'll definitely be keeping this one around. The second palette I used was this KVD. It was back when it was still Kat Von D. I got this before she before she let her anti-Semitic views known and her anti-vax views known. So don't come for me. But yeah, so this is the Lolita palette, and it's the smaller of her two. She also has Lolita Por Vida, which I have, and I'll use during another 2-week period. And this is an all matte palette. I love this palette. I only used it twice in these 2 weeks, but I'm not going anywhere. I get all, you know, full beat on maybe 2 times every week at most. So this time around I only used it twice, but every time I do, I love the look that comes out of it. I love these cool tone mauves. They even have some warmer tones in there. This I can't even read it because it's like in old font and it's kind of Spanish. Hermosura. I love that shade. So I wore it once alone, and I wore it once topped with this Charlotte Tilbury Rose Gold Eyes to Mesmerize cream shadow. I hope I have pictures of both of those looks. I'm not sure. You'll know right now before me because you'll be watching it. I'll put it on the screen if I do. But that was also a really fun combo because it kind of adds that shimmer that's lacking in the palette, although I love an all matte look. But yeah, that was really fun, and the colors go really well together. So I loved having that palette in rotation, even though I only used it twice. But it's definitely one that I will have as long as it's good, as long as it's still good in my collection, because I just love those shades. The third eyeshadow palette I used for the last 2 weeks was Sigma Warm Neutrals, and this was my first use of this palette as well because I received it in the mail right before I started the 2 weeks, but I bought it last year, so I was not cheating on my no buy. And it is a very nice warm neutral palette, just like the name implies. And I used this about 5 times, and I really like it. It's a lot of fun. I would say that there's one shade that I do not like, and that is Fool's Gold. I used it once, and I didn't like that look. But the other shadows and shades I really like. I'm not as much into like this brighter pink shade, Amaranth. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. But all the other shades, definitely shades that I will use. This Rogue isn't one I'm as into, but I will use that, you know, with a light hand so it doesn't get to be too bright. But yeah, this was definitely a fun palette. I'm really glad I picked it up when it was on sale with their 3 other ones in this type of palette packaging. And it's a Minnesota brand. I'm a Minnesota brand myself. I don't live there anymore, but born and raised in Minnesota, so I always love to support Minnesota brands. So the 3 blushes I used for this 2-week period were the Tarte Exposed blush, it's Amazonian Clay blush, the Becca Luminous blush in Foxglove, and the Fenty Cream blush in Fenty Glow that came in a holiday kit, and it is a nice nude cream blush. So, quick review on these. The Tarte Exposed, I had to use a more dense brush to get it to build up because this one, it's like a cult classic, and yet I barely can get it to show up on my cheeks. When I do really pile it on and use a dense brush, then I can get it to show up, but otherwise there's just not a lot to it. But I just got this, so I'm going to keep using it. And sometimes it's one of those things where the top layer needs to come off and then it's used, but I read a lot of reviews saying the same thing, so I don't know if this is ever going to be something that is easy to use or not, but I do like it once I get it built up. It just takes a lot of work to do that. The Becca blush I received in, I shouldn't say I received it, I mean I did, I received it in the mail, but after I purchased it as an add-on with FabFitFun with my winter box. And this color is the opposite of the Tarte one. I have to use a light hand and a fluffier brush, and it is a very nice pink tone though when I do that. So I do like this Becca blush. I just have to be slightly careful when I use it. And the Fenty Cream blush, I really like this. I love a good nude blush. It is definitely my favorite type of blush, and I will use this with my fingers or a nice dense cream brush, and it's nice. I can even use it as a cream bronzer. So it kind of is fun to have that double use. I don't have any cream bronzers, so I'm glad to have this in my collection. And I think that it was my first time using this in this 2-week time as well. I'm just going to quickly introduce the items I have coming up for my next 2 weeks, and that is the Persona Identity Palette, the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Quad, the Sigma Untamed Palette, and the 3 blushes are Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk, Marc Jacobs Air Blush in Lines and Last Night, and a cream blush by Beauty Crop. you will have to tune back in 2 weeks to see what I think of these and to see if any of these palettes get cut or any of the blushes, and also to see what looks I come up with for all of these different items. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that this is something that you'll enjoy, and really what I'm trying to do is just appreciate what I have in my collection already. It's part of my strategies to stop shopping, and I would love to know if you do anything similar to this. Are there other YouTubers out there that do things similar to this? I'd like to know, to watch their content as well. And if you are a content creator and have videos that you make with similar subject matters, I'd like to know that. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate that a lot. I appreciate you, and I hope that you will tune in some more. I try to put out videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and oftentimes on Mondays as well. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.